Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you. Canada, Tennessee. This is absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for joining. You'll see it's only me right now. Robyn um, another commitment that she couldn't change that came up at the very last minute. So we recorded a conversation yesterday that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. I'll be here in the chat. I'll be answering questions, sharing links and resources and things like that. But I'd really love to know your thoughts about the question I posted in the chat, which is, who here has a prior experience with gaming fundraising? Have you done it before at your work? Have you tried to do it and heard back, and has it been difficult? I'd just love to kind of get a feeling for that. Welcome, John. As we go, even though it is recorded, I'll be here, and feel free to ask questions. We can do follow-ups. Really quick pitch or explanation of what this group is, who you've joined, why we're doing this. So the Donor Participation Project is a fundraiser community. We get together every month, essentially, for a lunch analysis. That was last week, towards the middle of the month, we get together. It's over 1,500 members already. So if you'd like to check it out, that's the website that you can see right there. Oops, other side. Sign up. It's free. We'd love to have you. We need to fix this donor participation issue, and we think that it's something we're going to do all together, and we're going to figure it out as a community. So I look forward to seeing you. Without further ado, here is Robyn Mendez. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you. Well, to be honest, we're not seeing you. This is a recording. Robyn and I are having a chat during the weekend preceding the broadcast, but we really wanted to have a chance to give you a chance to get to know Robyn. So hi, welcome, Robyn.
Thanks, Louis. I really appreciate the flexibility and being able to record today so that I can take care of some personal family business tomorrow. So thank you for flexibility. And for anybody who's watching, please don't take this as a slight. I would absolutely love to connect with you through one of the digital channels. So, find me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions that Louis can't answer live, I'm more than happy to take those questions via Messenger, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you. Robyn is absolutely fantastic and super responsive. She's truly a fundraising amazing citizen. Take her word on that. LinkedIn and all the other channels. But the reason we're here today is because I had the opportunity to meet Robyn as part of a project that the Donor Participation Project is working on, which is kind of a how do we describe it, Robyn? It's kind of like a tutorial / just let's play some games about, and the general topic is video game fundraising, more or less accurate. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited about it. I feel like what we're really tapping into with this special gaming project is really looking at how are groups of individuals coming together to fundraise in the spaces where they hang out. So, the gaming community is huge, but when you look at kind of the larger live streaming community, yes, they totally play games. They love playing games, but they're doing all sorts of cool and interesting things. You've got crafters who are sewing. You've got,
What, really?
who hang out and chit chat. You have artists who paint. So, I mean, honestly, anything that you do as a hobby and would connect with people digitally, those things are all happening on Twitch, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all of these kind of social channels where people are making live streamed video content.
That's amazing. So Robyn, thanks so much for expanding our world today. And you have a ton of experience in this area, which was, part of why I was so excited when you, offered to help out. I saw, I hope it was okay that, I looked at you, I was stalked you on LinkedIn, but I saw you work with the MD Anderson Cancer Center, Blackbaud. I mean, tell us about maybe your whole career and how it led you to maybe specialize in this space.
Yeah, well, whenever I think about my career, I really feel like I've always been very interested in new technology and how new technology can empower people to raise funds for organizations that are doing good. So, you know, early in my career, I kind of started out managing events. So I worked for the National MS Society on the MS 150. I worked at Susan G. Komen on the Race for the Cure locally here in Houston, which is where my home is. And so what that and I'm about to date myself. So, you know, it was a moment in time right before Facebook and MySpace were really becoming super popular. And so, you know, in that moment, we were doing most of our communication via email. It was one of the primary channels that was free, I mean, relatively free, where you could have those sorts of conversations and recruit people to participate in your events and then talk to them about participating in the events. Like, here's where to park, here's how to fundraise, da 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 da. So where that led me to was working for Convio. Convio at that moment in time, before it was acquired by Blackbaud, was really kind of on the front lines of putting together traditional peer-to-peer fundraising events. And so I was able to leverage my professional experience at Komen and at the MS Society to then support hundreds of customers who were trying to fundraise using the peer-to-peer channels. So that's kind of where I started. And I think you can kind of see the parallels of how, you know, just the interest in being nerdy and loving technology, like bringing that together with tech has always kind of been my niche. And as tech has evolved, and it's evolved so quickly, it's been kind of fun to, like, as we learned more about social media, you know, getting into Facebook and Facebook fundraising, and, you know, that naturally kind of led me towards live stream fundraising and more traditional crowdfunding and those types of fundraising channels. So at Blackbaud, I was responsible for the product lines that kind of helped support that. And then at Tiltify, same story, where we're helping to support content creators who are primarily in the live streaming space to fundraise for the charities that they care the most about, and helping the charities better understand how to recruit and how can they fundraise in this space. I'll be frank, it's intimidating, and I think a lot of folks are hesitant. And so it's been nice to kind of, you know, play an intermediary where I can help folks to better understand the concepts and to be less freaked out by it, because it's not as scary as it might seem on the surface.
So that's where I felt we had a really good fit, right? Because we were kind of thinking along those same lines. So we're a fundraiser community, and we are kind of tech friendly, right? We meet on Zoom, but most of our community is very much, I don't want to say traditional fundraisers, but, you know, the kind of the visit and the proposal and the ask model of fundraisers. And maybe on the annual fund side, well, yes, still relying on email a whole lot. And we felt like the model that kind of we've used is learn by doing. So maybe video game fundraising is a really easy way to get introduced to this area. But as you kind of taught us more about this, we've learned that it's actually huge. I mean, it's way beyond gaming, and gaming is already big, right? I read that stat, 2/3 of people play video games or have played a video game. So, you know, how do people leverage, you said like sewing, like, how, you know, or painting, you know, so are people supporting artists that they like on platforms, Twitch, TikTok, etc.? Yes. Oh, tell us about this.
I mean, it sounds so basic, but I mean, in the same way that you and I are like hanging out right now, imagine if I had a canvas and was like, okay, well, imagine the camera was pointing down at my canvas and I was just painting, like, okay, you know, let's do some trees, or, you know, if I was sewing, like, okay, we're sewing. But I think what really happens in those moments, even with video gaming, you'll see this, while they're playing the video game, they're chatting about all sorts of stuff that have nothing to do with the video game, that just are like relevant in the moment. So, you know, it could be like, oh, my dog is like passed out right now in the floor. Like, he's so funny and he snores so loud. Like, people are just hanging out with one another. And so it's much more about the social interaction than it truly is about that hobby. Now, the hobby is kind of the catalyst to bring people together, whether that's gaming or painting or sewing or whatever it might be. Like, you know, those hobbies bring you together as like a common, you know, thread or bond. But you end up just hanging out and getting to know people, and they just talk about whatever it is that's going on in their lives, and you become friends with one another.
That's so cool. Something we heard several times in our donor participation project sessions was I came for the, whatever, insert sewing, art, Super Mario, but I
Mhm.
stayed for the community.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's exactly what's happening there, right?
Yeah, well, and I love to draw parallels, especially like for people who are more familiar with traditional fundraising, that in this universe, it functions more similar to a major giving or a mid-tier giving model in terms of
Mhm.
recruitment and relationship building.
Interesting.
Then you would think, so I would draw more parallels to like it's direct relationship building for those organizations that are seeing success. They really are investing in getting to know who their fundraisers are and in a
Mhm.
very one-on-one sort of a way. So, I think a lot,
Not
one of the
impersonal. Even if it's digital, it's not impersonal, right?
And not at all. And to be honest, those organizations that kind of show up and send out a bunch of emails thinking that they're going to recruit the gamers, blah, 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 it doesn't really work that way.
Mhm.
The approach is much more of a like one to many, where you're investing the time to kind of build those relationships from the ground up. So what we see is those programs, whether it's gaming or just in the live streaming space in general, those organizations that invest in staff to kind of help build those relationships,
Mhm.
see the dividends pay off, tenfold. It's a pretty
Well,
significant jump.
I don't know if you were involved in this because you've been involved in so many initiatives, but I was looking at one of these like major giving days and there were several, right? And one of them had a list of donors, and there were major gift donors in there. I mean, there were 100K gifts on that
Yeah.
list. So, I mean, this isn't just like token, dollar gifts.
No, and to be frank, like this is a new generation of millionaires. There is a whole like network of folks who have made millions and millions and millions of dollars playing video games online or simply just hanging out in digital
That's
communities.
nuts. That's crazy.
And they will not give you their email. They will not give you their address. They will more than likely allow you to DM them on Twitter, so you can send them a
Twitter.
message on Twitter. But I mean, they will not give you their personal information. It's comparable to like, could you just call up Elon Musk and be like, "Hey, dude, what's your address?"
Hmm.
No. The answer is no. These folks are celebrities in the digital space. When you talk about like Mr. Beast,
Uh-huh.
the dude raised like $38 million last year for a charity.
Hmm.
He writes big checks. He's a very generous, his real name's Jimmy. He's very generous,
Wow.
not only to those charities and causes that he supports, but anytime any of his buddies are fundraising or any of his friends are fundraising, he's dropping the credit card to give money to them as well. And there's a whole universe of folks who have kind of made their millions in this live streaming space. If you watch TikTok, these are the Charlie D'Amelios of the world. And it's
Hmm.
kind of funny because a lot of times you don't even know what their names are. We work really closely in my previous job with a gentleman who goes by the name of Jacksepticeye. Um,
Oh, I read about that.
his real name's Sean. He is probably one of the most generous people you'll ever meet.
Amazing. Beautiful.
And again, just raising millions of dollars. He drops his own credit card, has no problem with that. In the most recent fundraiser that he did for Thank Miss, which happened the end of last year, he brought on another one of these like really rich YouTuber guys, who he's
Hmm.
friends with, a guy named Mark. And Mark was like, okay, I'm going to match every donation that comes in the next 10 minutes. Like it was just off the cuff. He just said
Hmm.
it. Like, I
Hmm.
don't, he may have planned like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I don't think he really realized what was going to happen. $100,000 later.
Oh my goodness, poor guy.
I mean, go onto YouTube, look up Markiplier and Thank Miss. You'll find the take on it. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
classic. He's like, holy shit, that is a
Bit
lot
like,
of money. Like, that's a lot
wow.
of money for me. He literally like reached his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, phone in the other hand,
Wow.
and you see it on screen live. Like it comes up that the
Well, so
donation
far,
was
this,
processed. all
Yeah, and
live.
this is part of what makes it so accessible. And you see the impact, and you see it like happening right before your eyes, right? You know, in traditional nonprofits, the rhythms are maybe like longer. You have the once a year annual report, and you see the honor roll. You know, you make a gift now, and you have to wait until December. You know, but this is like right now. It's really happening.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the magic of specifically live stream fundraising is that it is happening right in front of you. And so
Mm-hmm.
part of what we see is those people who are fundraising that are live on camera. The goal is, how do I create an engaging experience with those people who are watching me live, like right now? So, you know, some of the tools that they use, they'll have polls where it'll be like, okay, what video game do you want me to play next? You know, Mario or, you know, Phasmophobia, whatever it
It's
might
a two-way relationship with the audience, right? It's not just a broadcast.
It's not a broadcast. It's a relationship sort of a thing. And you can actually like donate with your money on the poll. And so what we see happening is that with these live stream fundraisers, people tend to donate more than once to the same campaign. And to like draw some parallels with things that you might feel more familiar with, like with a walk, it's one and done. Like if I'm walking and I'm like, hey, Louis, I'm walking. Will you give me 20 bucks? You're like, yes, I will give you 20 bucks to go away. You give me your $20, and you and I don't necessarily even talk about it ever again. I probably tell you thank you. And maybe if I'm a really good fundraiser, I'll follow up and be like, oh, this organization had this impact as a result of that. But what's happening here is in the live streaming space, it's about that entertainment experience. So it's almost like philanthropy for entertainment and philanthropy to engage with a celebrity or semi-celebrity in some way, shape, or form. So you know, it's creating those moments where you and I can chit chat with one another. We can have an experience with one another. And it's just much more active than what we see with more traditional peer-to-peer fundraising. And that's why, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just reflecting. That's so cool. Please keep going.
Oh yeah, and I was going to say, and that's why you have to have a higher touch model as a charity in building the relationships with the folks that are doing this type of activity.
Exactly. I mean, I could see people assigning a relationship manager to these.
You should.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think this is a fantastic example of how something we talk again in the donor participation project, where, you know, being more inclusive, bringing people in, you know, not going beyond maybe your typical audience, really is the right thing to do, but also pays off. So, you know, I think that's a fantastic message.
Well, and I think, you know, when you start thinking about research and like you're looking for, if you're in the major gifts field or in the mid-tier giving, you're looking for people who have disposable income, who are willing to be charitable. And when you start thinking about the amount of technology that's required in order to run a live stream, you know, I mean, microphones and lights and cameras and computers and video games, these are not inexpensive items. So this is a hobby similar to cycling that requires a certain level of income in order to just participate. And so what we see is the people who are watching the stream aren't necessarily wealthy, but the people who are participating in live streaming oftentimes have a significant level of disposable income, and they are more than happy to allocate some of that towards charity. They also view it as investment back into their own digital persona. So, you know, if I am a YouTuber and I care a lot about breast cancer because my grandmother had breast cancer, it is interesting and engaging content for my followers who know me and care about me for me to be like, all right, guys, today I'm going to be fundraising for Susan G. Komen. I'm just using this as an example because this is a mission that I feel passionately about. And so what ends up happening is the people watching my stream that are familiar with me love the fact that I am being charitable, and they appreciate that. And so it helps with me building a tighter relationship with the folks who are in my digital community or who are my followers that watch my stream. What it also does is ultimately ends up with money going back to the charity. So it's this like win-win-win-win-win-win-win all around, where it's good for the content creator to be doing the fundraising. It's good for the brand of the charity to be associated with the person who is having these types of conversations. And it's good for this person because they're able to engage in new and interesting ways with their community that they may not have been able to do before.
That's amazing. And, you know, it's good for the platform too, right? You know, there's lots of goodwill, and that's good for everybody. So Robyn, something we think about a lot in our group is that kind of smaller nonprofit fundraiser. And I always try to kind of channel them. And, you know, when they're listening to this model, and there are different, you know, models of how to use streaming and gaming to engage your community, et cetera. But like when you're listening to this, like, what's the next step? Like, should everybody try to find those, you know, gaming influencers in their community? Is that even realistic? Are there other ways to like build community just through streaming and other activities that every nonprofit could do? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I don't believe that the majority of the folks who are, well, okay, let me start over. It varies depending upon the platform that they're using. So if you're talking about TikTok specifically, you know, if you want to be fundraising in the TikTok space, you must, as a charity, have a TikTok channel that is active, and you need to be posting content to it. That's the expectation from the folks at TikTok. That's the expectation from the followers who are watching the videos. And it's tricky because the content that people want to watch on TikTok is not like sad, sappy, like, you know,
people or doctor researching, you know, really boring stuff that will pay off in 30 years and save a ton of lives. But it's hard. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that I've seen do it really well tend to like just lean into TikTok in the way that it is. So they have their staff do dancing videos. You know, they're silly and human, and you know, they do silly and fun things. People watch TikTok for entertainment value. Some of my favorite videos that I see charities post would be like a duet. So literally it's one person on one side of the screen reacting to whatever it is that the video is on the other side of the screen. And so as a charity, it's pretty easy to do. All you need is an iPhone, or, you know, you can do any of this on your smartphone. You just download TikTok. If you start searching for your organization or the keywords that are associated with your organization, so, you know, we were talking about breast cancer earlier, look for breast cancer, look for Komen, look for American Cancer Society, look for any of those terms that would like float around in your space, and just start engaging and reacting to people's videos. If you, especially if you've got a big brand, if you're reacting, people are honored by that, and they'll respond back. So it again becomes this like cool symbiotic relationship where everyone's benefiting everyone.
And if I can say, like, even just what you just shared, Robyn, is I see that as a challenge for so many kind of all these organizations that have to go through 50 layers of marketing, comms, approval, that everything comes out being like super stilted and, you know, very official sounding. That's just so human, which is what people want now, right?
It totally is. And to be honest, you mentioned like smaller organizations who may not have a huge staff. I actually see them being more successful in some of these social channels because they don't have to go through the same level of bureaucracy in order to like post or react or respond.
Exactly.
And they don't have to deal with some of the more traditional silos of like, in our institution, marketing lives here and fundraising lives here. And if fundraising wants to post to marketing's, you know, socially owned assets, they must ask permission, and that takes 6 weeks, and blah, 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 blah. Like, they don't have to deal with that. And so sometimes that actually makes the smaller organizations more successful. One that I really love is Trans Lifeline. You know, we're in the middle of Pride Month right now. And if you guys are wanting to like look at an organization that I think is doing this really well, if you watch Trans Lifeline, they're in terms of staff, like relatively small, under 20 staff members. I don't know exactly how many, but I mean, the team working on these social channels is like 2 or 3. Like it's a small group. But they've just done a great job of reaching out to their fundraisers, creating personal relationships. And as a result, those folks have reached out to their communities And what, you know, it ends up becoming this cycle of, I'm going to fundraise for Trans Lifeline in June. I'm going to ask you to fundraise for Trans Lifeline in June because you care about me. And because I said Trans Lifeline is a cool organization that I support, then you're more likely to do the same thing. So then your followers hear the same message from you. And so it ends up being this like really cool networking opportunity where we all kind of get in this together and grow together and fundraise. So I think while smaller organizations may find it a little intimidating, I would actually challenge that some of the things that larger organizations have to do or go through in order to actually create authentic relationships with people, smaller organizations can just do. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, there's an expectation. It's okay for your TikTok video to be a little raw. You can do it. Yeah, exactly. It's cool. Like,
I mean, look at us. I'm in my basement, and you know that's okay.
I'm in my dining room, so.
You look very, very perfect. But I love this because Robyn, you kind of expanded our thinking a little bit. You know, we are working together on this project, and maybe I'll share. It's going to be 4 Fridays in September. And we're going to explain and share with people a little bit of what this world looks like, gaming culture and live streaming culture, but from a really practical perspective, like how do you actually set it up? How do you go and find your influencer or your community streamers and gamers inside your donor file, how you actually fundraise and how you build community. And we're going to end up playing a game actually, and hopefully have some fun competition. But you kind of put everything on a continuum, going from TikTok to what people will be familiar with, which is peer-to-peer fundraising. And you're kind of telling us, well, essentially it's just kind of an evolved version of the same thing. No? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% it. I think the technology might feel intimidating and the vernacular might be intimidating, but I think the basic construct of fundraising is around relationship building.
There you go. Yeah.
And we all, like, that's what we've all built our careers on as fundraisers. And so I don't think that those ideas and the way that you go about doing that is so foreign or so different. That these are just humans that have different hobbies.
Exactly. I love it. And maybe in a way the technology is making that team that was always going to be two to three people because it wasn't the major gifts team much more effective. Now they can reach, if their TikTok video takes off, hundreds, millions of people. And the same with the peer-to-peer, like all this technology is really helping with that. That's also a part of our group, donor participation. There are less and less people giving to nonprofits. Maybe this is a way around that.
Oh, I 100% believe that it is. And what we see, especially when we're starting to look at like gaming and Twitch and YouTube, that the audiences who are engaging in these fundraisers are net new to the organization. So these types of programs are acquisition tools as much as they are, fundraising tools. And I think one of the things that I love about peer-to-peer is that if you're talking about traditional acquisition, it's expensive. Like you lose money if you're doing direct mail and trying to fundraise. This, you gain money. It's a positive, it's a profit positive activity. And you're also bolstering your list, and you're bolstering your list with new people who have never engaged with you. Now, I do think there are some interesting things, and this is something maybe we'll go into more during our sessions later on in the summer. But, you have to be thoughtful about how you're going to nurture those relationships. Just dropping the person who donated to a live stream campaign into your direct mail nurture stream is like bad. It is like the opposite of what you want to do. It will hurt your relationship rather than nurture your relationship. So I think you need to be thoughtful about it. But these are absolutely audiences that care a lot about philanthropy. They tend to give to multiple organizations. They tend to support multiple types of causes. It's rare that you'll see a person who only fundraises for one charity or who only fundraises for one charity in a single space. Right now it's Pride Month, and so a lot of them are fundraising for charities that are protecting the LGBTQ plus communities. which is so much fun. And so it's not uncommon, you know, when Christmas gets here, they love to help the humanitarian causes. So it's fun to kind of watch the cycles. If something happens in the news, you know, when Ukraine, when the war first started and was first breaking out, and even now, even they're still fundraising for Ukrainian efforts. And they're looking, when these types of news situations happen, for those organizations that are kind of on the front lines making a big difference, you know. So it's fun. It's a very generous community, and they love working with the charities.
This is amazing, Robyn. Thank you for broadening our world, our concept of what fundraising is, you know, into this kind of new spaces, and helping us discover tools to make fundraising more inclusive, more participatory, you know, all the good things. You talked about acquisition. Well, you know, the reality is that those phone calls and all those letters kind of not only, you know, yeah, they're very expensive, but also kind of don't leave a very good feeling on people. Whereas all of this is just a fantastic way and a fun way and an inclusive way. This is amazing. We're going to let you leave, Robyn, but if you want to say any final words to everybody, I just want to say how grateful we are to have a you know, recognized expert such as you helping us along and trying to teach other fundraisers about this new space. Yeah, thank you. Any final observations, remarks, questions for people?
I just want to thank you, Louis, for inviting me not only to participate in today's conversation, but, you know, I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with the donor participation project moving forward. And I'm excited to have this group of really smart people coming together to kind of help elevate the work that we're doing in the philanthropic space. So thank you for your leadership there. And thank you for inviting me to be part of the team. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see how the future plays out with all of it. So thank you, and congratulations on your work so far.
That's amazing. You said smart, and you're elevating the level. So we're grateful about that. Everybody here is definitely invited. We need all of you. And I'll be in the chat when we you know, broadcast this, so answering questions. But thanks a lot, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much. And again, I said this at the top of the call, but please find me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message. I will answer whatever questions you might have. If you're interested in connecting with others in this space, I'm more than happy to kind of help connect some dots. So yeah, just excited to be part of the team and looking forward to kind of seeing everything grow. Thanks, Louis.
Awesome. I'll display your LinkedIn link. Thanks a whole lot, Robyn.
Beautiful. Thank you. Good night, guys.
Hi, everybody. I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding with the recording. How did it work all right? It's the first time we're doing it. I'm seeing so many colleagues on this call that are incredibly accomplished and, you know, experts in your own right, and especially experts in your context, right? And what works and what doesn't with your communities, with your constituents. So we're always open to input. Please do connect with Robyn. If you feel like it, connect with me. Check out the Donor Participation Project. It's joindpp.org. You know, your feedback is always welcome. As I said, we're putting on a course that's going to be super practical. I saw some questions in the chat like, well, how does this actually work? What are the mechanics? I want more details, right? Because it's okay just to blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of what the Donor Participation Project is about. It's about practical learning. We're going to do a course with experts that are fundraising right now with their organizations. And then we're going to actually put on a game that's kind of a friendly competition among fundraisers. So you can actually be a part of it and see how it works in detail. So it may be the most fun professional development opportunity you've had this year, and it's in September. So thanks a whole lot, and we'll be in touch. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Bye-bye. Thank you.